Hey everyone, welcome back to the B-side. Brad here. We're going to be working on Paste Pot Pete tonight. I'm so excited to work on this guy. This is one of those ones where I have no idea why I'm so excited to work on him. I guess again it's the challenge of trying to make him look slightly less ridiculous than he actually is, and that is going to be a bit of a challenge. So I have really done nothing. I've done a version of the pose that I think I might want to put him in, but that's in Maya, and I'm going to be jumping in ZBrush right now. And we're going to kind of start blocking him out from the very beginning. So this is where we're going to try and turn Paste Pot Pete into a legend. Now again, this is kind of like, I feel like this is very much like the Jack of Hearts, where he's kind of a goofy looking guy, but I'm going to try and kind of take him with the seriousness that I would if I were doing someone else, and turn him into a statue. So again, the Jack of Hearts statue is very near being put together. It's all printed and primed, and I'm just starting to add some paint to it now. Really excited about that, and I don't know if this guy is going to be kind of exciting as in that same vein, but I think again, who knows, maybe if we can make him not look this stupid, or maybe if we can just really lean into the stupid, it'll be worth it. So that's my goal. I think that might be the better way to go. I think that we're not going to try and cover up the stupid. We're going to embrace it whole hog. So this is it's a basic male base mesh, and as you can see, there's not a whole lot of him that is going to be kind of visible physically. It's going to be a lot. Just he's like neck to feet, completely covered in very baggy clown-like clothes, which is going to be interesting to do. Angry Monday, what's up, buddy? Thank you so much for coming by. Jamie, I'm sorry I missed you. Hopefully it'll be worth your while when you come back and check it out later. Again, this is going to be pretty much straight from the beginning. So, he's got this. He's a character who basically who created a kind of glue, a new kind of glue. No, thank you so much. I appreciate your faith. I don't know if it's misplaced. We're going to try something. So we're going to give it a shot. Okay, he created this kind of this glue, and like most people who created a great adhesive, he became a wannabe supervillain. And he had a bucket with a lid on it and a connection somehow to a gun that he uses to shoot glue. And I don't know if you can tell from the picture here, but he's shooting it at the Human Torch. Thanks, Angry Monday. I appreciate it, man. He's shooting it at Human Torch. He had a real fixation on Human Torch. I think that was like his first fight, and now he never quite got over that. So that's just what you're seeing there. He's got a very strange face. And again, for the most part, I'm going to be posing him very quickly. In my mind, again, I'm thinking of him as a statue because I want to print him out. And what I want to kind of have him do basically is be kind of midair shooting with the glue gun, and the glue gun is the glue from the gun is going to kind of be hitting the ground and kind of form the base underneath of him. So here I am, for example, in Maya, and this is where I'm going to bring him after I kind of block out the face. But the pose I have in mind is kind of like this, where he's kind of like, I'll hit 7 so you can see the outline here. You can see here he's going to be kind of like in midair shooting down, and the glue from the gun is going to kind of be hitting the ground and kind of like curling back this way, so that it could be a viable base for him. He wouldn't fall over. It'll kind of come back. That's my plan. That's my vague idea, right? So I kind of, again, this is a much more muscular, athletic version than we're going to actually have, obviously, because again, he's wearing a clown suit. But from a pose standpoint, this is kind of what I'm having in mind, right? So that's where we are right now. But before we can do that, we need to kind of get the main thing I'm going to be doing in ZBrush, honestly, before I pose him, is just the face. Everything else, I think it makes more sense to do in the pose. For the most part, I might do the outfit, but I really think it makes more sense to do everything while he's in the pose. That way I don't have to worry about it. But we'll see. But the main thing again is the face. If I kind of bring this face up here, it's an interesting face to say the least. There aren't many pictures I can find of him like this. Paste Pot Pete apparently goes through a couple different uniforms. He also changes his name eventually to the Trapster, but you can improve on Paste Pot Pete, so I'm going to go with that. Plus, you can also, you have to have the big floppy hat, the crazy collar, and the ridiculous bow tie. You can't improve on that. So that's where I have to go. But what I'm gathering from looking at these images, and again, like I said, not a whole lot of facial images, but they all have one thing in common. One, he's got very pronounced eyebrows and a kind of like a caveman brow. And two, He's got kind of a slightly scrunchy, like a smaller nose and a ridiculously wide mouth. Like in all the images, when he's doing this grin, the corners of his mouth go way beyond the pupils, which is where I think they typically would align, right? They go way back there. He's got horrible hairstyle. Um, Not the goatee, I mean, that's fine, but he's got kind of like just very unkempt hair. So I think that that's my main goal right now before I bring him into Maya, just to kind of get him in the pose, is to try and get that face looking a little bit more distinct. I don't pretend I'm going to be able to do the likeness. I'm not good with likenesses, but I'm going to try to, at the very least, kind of capture those exaggerated features. The very first thing I'm going to do, because this came from Maya, and you can see the proportion, the scale is kind of crazy. This is Bucky walking in front of the camera. Say hi, everybody. He's going to sit on my tablet, of course he is. But it comes from Maya, and it's very big, right? So in terms of scale. So I'm just going to try and scale this down. I'm going to scale everything down because I have eyes and teeth in here, I think. So I'm going to grab everything. I'm going to hold down Shift. But I want to make sure that when I bring it into Maya, I can easily bring it back up to the scale that it's supposed to go. So I'm just going to hold down Shift. That way when I scale it down, it'll scale down in increments, right, that are kind of easily figured out. I'm going to scale it down to 0.25. That way when I bring it into Maya, I can just scale it up to, by 400%. He does look like Willem. And I was thinking of Willem Dafoe because he's got that very like wide seaming mouth. So that's kind of what I have in mind here. So I'm going to try to ignore his physique because again, he's not a big muscular dude, but his clothes are going to be obviously a little bit baggy, so it's going to add a little bit to that. But also again, because I'm going to be plugging him into a rig, a pre-existing rig, I don't want to get too crazy with changing anything. So I'm going to really try and just focus on the face here. And also I'm again trying to remember that he's going to have hair. He's going to be wearing this goofy hat. So my main concern is going to be proportions here. So he's got a lot more of a chin underneath the mouth here. So I'm going to kind of try and elongate the chin a little bit. Kind of bring that down. And again, I don't want the face to be too typical. So I'm going to go to my 3/4 view here so I can kind of get the mouth wide. And again, on the rig, I have the ability to open the jaw, so I'm going to try to avoid. I want the jaw to be open here because it looks kind of goofy like this, but he's a goofy looking guy. But I'm going to try and kind of resist that temptation because I don't want that to be, something that I have to kind of like do twice. I can bring it into Maya and adjust that. So again, I'm just going to make his nose a little bit more stubby. I don't really know what's up with that, but I'll kind of make that nose a little bit more like this. Again, I'm just trying to get like this. He's like a frog. He's got a frog-like face to me. I don't know why I'm thinking frog, but I'm thinking frog. Let's bring in here, get that little filtrum in a little bit. But I think so much of this is just going to be the way that mouth kind of curls out and then back down around. Like I think that's just going to be so much of what makes this face look like him. I want to kind of like broaden this part again. I need to. I want to get the neck because the neck is such a big, thick neck on this base mesh that it's just throwing me off. So I want to make sure that it's going to look silly with this big body here, but again, the big body is going to be gone, so I'm not really concerned about that too much. So again, I'm just now it's looking like somebody else. I can't think of who it is, but it's definitely in someone else's zone here at this point. I'm just going to try and get the little brow ridge down a little bit here. The eyes are probably a little bit closer together too, but I think that's something I could probably do. I think they feel a little bit more like beady. So I'm gonna kind of just move them a little bit in that. And he's got almost jowls, right? Again, I think it's really more. It's not so much that he has jowls, that he does not have cheekbones. I think that's what it comes down to, is that like he's got the lower part of his face sticks out more, because the upper part of his face, the cheekbone part, is non-existent. I think that's probably what's going on here. So I'm just going to kind of, again, tone down uh, the neck shape a little bit here. So turn the movie down a tiny bit. All right. So again, he's keeping in mind that we're only going to see the front part of his face for the most part, because everything else is going to be very largely covered up by his collar, his hair, and the that hat, that ridiculous hat. I just don't know what he was thinking with this outfit. Like I can't quite figure out what what it was he was going for here with this outfit. Like it's not the first thing I think of when I think of adhesive inventors. Um, like it's not like he's God. This looks like somebody. I don't know who it looks like. Okay, it's somebody though, like an actor of some sort. Whoever it was, they should really play Paste Pot Pete in the movie, which I hope exists or will exist at some point. Again, I think the Trapster does exist. Like, has kind of become a little bit more, um, more of a of a of a known character in DC. No, I'm sorry, Marvel, not DC. I was thinking DC because he has a lot, he, at least spiritually, he has a lot in common with the Condiment King, who was a DC, a Batman villain, and he has an equal claim to ridiculousness. That's what I'm saying. Like it does. It seems, if anything, it seems like you're just begging to get accidentally stuck to yourself. Like baggy clothes and glue, they don't go together, guys. In case you're curious, they don't go together. At least in my opinion. But maybe that's part of the whole super villain mystique. Although I'm not really sure he goes so far as to call him super villain. So again, now he just looks like mildly annoyed. Um, I had no idea. Again, I think the Trapster is a name that it's a little more familiar to me, and he turns into the Trapster. He actually there's actually like a cartoon. Actually, he was actually in a cartoon like with Modoc and others, and he called himself Paste Pot Pete, and they started laughing at him, and so he said on the spot, "That's it. I'm changing my name, like to the Trapster." But I think in the comics, he's changed his name and his look several times, and this, I believe, was his initial look. So I'm going traditional here, um, because it's just so. If you're looking for a challenge to try and make something that's not interesting or not intimidating or badass, if you're looking for a challenge, try and turn this guy into a cool looking statue. I don't know if it's possible, but I'm definitely gonna do my best. Right. And again, the bucket doesn't help, right? I'm just like, he's, like the bucket, it doesn't help. And again, in some of his later incarnations, he doesn't have the bucket. Um, but it's even weirder. So I'm gonna go to my, so I'm gonna, like, here's my Google search for Paste Pot Pete, right? And this is his next incarnation. He sticks with the green and the purple, but then he doesn't have a bucket anymore. He kind of has it as part of his top, which seems even like an even worse idea, if I'm being honest. I mean, but he eventually then becomes then he goes to the Trapster. So now this feels very 90s. Like they're not pouches, but they may as well be pouches. So yeah, he definitely goes a little bit more into the 90s era characters. This one's actually not a bad looking version for this dude, actually. Um, but again, he's got a lot of different versions of him, but nothing is worse than this one. Nothing is worse than this one, which is why I have to do it. So Paste Pot Pete. Maybe back when maybe I think he was like in the '60s. Maybe when he came out, the word paste pot was the phrase paste pot was used more commonly, and this was an obvious name. I don't know. All right. So I'm gonna say this is fine to start with. Like I said, I try and break symmetry as quickly as possible, just because I don't want to do too much, and then pose it and realize all that stuff I did was for nothing. Um, Even though like the nature of these clothes would probably be better to do it before I pose, but nah, I'm not going to do it. So I'm going to go ahead and export this guy out. Export him as body mesh sculpted. And now again, when I bring this into, dude, yeah, I mean, what's up, Gus? How you doing, man? Thanks for coming by. Dude, yeah, there are a lot of things from that era, which I'm convinced are purely LSD products. Not even just in Marvel. Like, you know, if you ever watched, I don't know if this was in the '60s or even before that, but you watch like the stop motion Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer show from Rankin Bass, and they had this when Rudolph was sent to live in the Arctic Circle. He came upon this flying lion called King Moonracer. You can't tell me that wasn't pure PCP. I don't know. But anyway, so I exported this out. When I saw King Moonracer, I was like, this is not something that a solo person will come up with. But Marty Croft. I mean, it's definitely a time for interesting characters. This one is beyond. But so again, when I import this guy, he is going to be tiny compared to him because I had to scale him down so he fit, right? But I scaled him down to 0.25. So theoretically, I should just be able to grab him and scale him up to 400%. That's when the stuff was pure. Not like today. All right. So now because this guy is, I should be able to kind of just freeze this transform here. I think I should be able just to kind of like plug him in as a blend shape to this guy. I did freeze transform, so theoretically it should work. But let's just see. I'm gonna plug him in as a blend shape. So instead of having to like bind him to the skeleton and kind of like transfer all the skin weights, I should be able just to kind of create a blend shape with this guy, and I can just turn it on. And yeah, so good. By turning it on now, it's just kind of like he just kind of takes on that, that shape. So I don't need to worry about binding it or anything like that. Now I do need to bring in the eyes. Remember, I did move the eyes in a little bit, so I'm just going to export those. Doesn't really matter. I could probably just figure it out, but why not? Why not try? So I'm going to import the eyes, and again, we need to break them up 400%. I'm actually going to do the same thing. Instead of, I'm just going to plug them in as a blend shape. It's silly, but I just don't feel like binding. Oh, I can't because they're different things. Oh, never mind. Okay, so I'll just make these eyes go away. The old eyes, the original eyes, the ones that were far away. I'm going to bring back joints so I can see them. Grab these eyes, shift select the joint, do a quick bind so that they move with that. All right. So now let's go to my frame. So this is going to be, and you can see here, I can at least get the mouth open a little bit. He's going to be yelling as he does the paste pot stuff. You can see here, I do have the idea of him. Now the weights on this are not good. They're not really. I never cared enough to really paint them out cleanly because it's really just for posing for ZBrush. So I have this little arrow here that is kind of connected to the fingers. So I can just kind of like give him a fist here. It's not going to be beautiful. It's just going to be roughly in place. But this is where he's going to be holding his bucket. This is where he's going to be holding his gun. So I should probably have this be a little bit less. But again, these fingers are awful. I'm going to need to kind of like do a lot of adjustments in ZBrush, and I just kind of know going in that's just going to be part of the process here. So it's not really a big deal. I'm just going to grab this guy, export him out. I'm going to call this body posed, and then I'll export the eyes out. You can see here that there's no teeth in this rig. I thought there were, but I guess there aren't. That just means I have to manually put the teeth in. It's fine. So these eyes, I could actually, if I wanted to, I can kind of maybe, no, they're not attached to the eye bones. Never mind, I'll just export these out. Eyes. So this rig has done its job. I'm going to now again when I bring this. Actually, no, before So when I bring this in, it's going to be very, very big again. I should probably think these things through. So I'm going to grab both of these, duplicate them so they are not bound to anything. Okay, I'm going to unlock them so they're not kind of like locked because they were bound. I'm going to group these together and then shrink these down to 1/4 their size because these are the ones that are actually the right scale for Maya. So probably should have thought of that, but now I'm going to re-export these guys here. Freeze these transforms so that this is their default scale. I don't know if it matters, but make sure we do this right. Whatever the teeth are, I'm going to need to expand them too, because again, this dude is he's uniquely proportioned. So let's go here to the subtool palette. Let's go to my guy, and let's import the body that mesh posed. Grab the eyes, import the eyes, and as you can see, okay, so he's kind of in position here. We're going to need to really remove a lot of the muscles, but I want to put the teeth roughly in place because, you know. So I was going to go here to the teeth. I'm going to just merge them together for the time being. I know I could just do the you know, move more than one subtool thing, but let's just do it this way. So let's just bring this roughly into the mouth here. That way I can just kind of expand them as they need to be expanded. All right, so something like that. Now let's put these up so I can move them. I'll give them a little bit more of an overbite. So let's just go shift F. I believe they're not, okay, they're not auto grouped, so that's okay. I'll auto group them, and let's just hide all the teeth on the bottom. Oh, I forgot. I keep missing. Ace makes waste and all of it. Here's what you're gonna do. We're gonna go to my select lasso, and I'm going to hide part of the bottom teeth like this, and then Control Shift A, and that will bring back all the parts of the hidden pieces. Something I learned not too long ago, and it's very, very useful. So split hidden. So now I have two different parts here. I get my little move tool, bring this back a little bit, move it down a little bit. I might kind of want this to feel a little bit more, what's the word? A little bit more stylized in the sense that, like, I want the teeth, instead of just being kind of like on top of each other like this, I want them to kind of like angle in. It's like a very comic booky thing. So I'm going to try that. Let's go here to my move tool here. Let's go to a deformer and just give us an up and down deformers here. Match these out. We're going to kind of angle these out like this so that they kind of like angle in. If this makes any sense. I'm hitting the wrong button a lot of times. So let's grab these guys, invert. Let's kind of bring these back a little bit. Forward. I just want them to kind of like angle in. I don't know why. I just think that's kind of it's a very comic book gridded teeth thing. We'll push that part back into the face. That's weird. All right, now let's do the bottom teeth as well and do the same thing. Move tool, center. Am I in the top teeth? Go to the bottom teeth. There we go. And let's do the same thing, right? Let's go to a deformer and let's just kind of broaden these out a little bit. And for our mask, kind of angle them in a touch. Get a little bit of this going. So I don't know why. I just like that kind of like weird comic booky feel to the teeth. And then let's go back to the top teeth here and just, because now I can go back to the face and give him a little bit more, and turn off symmetry obviously, and give him a little bit more of a grr happening. here. I'm gonna, as I add more points and stuff, I'm gonna try and really, really kind of exaggerate this expression. I want him to be extraordinarily upset at whoever it is he is mucilaging. Mucilage? Isn't that the word for glue? I'm not trying to get fancy. And I come up here and kind of a little bit of a snarl on the nose. Okay, get this little part down here. A little inflate, kind of bunch up. Okay. We'll get a little bit more of an asymmetrical thing happening here. By the way, if I start making stupid faces while I'm doing that, one, I mean, that's just my face. Sorry about that. But also, like sometimes when I'm sculpting stupid, like I'm sculpting extreme little expressions, I tend to make them myself, and it looks ridiculous if anyone's looking. Usually, no one is, but sometimes they are, and I apologize in advance for whatever stupid faces I make. I do that also when I'm animating and I'm trying to kind of get an expression on somebody. I'll be like, it doesn't really, it's not really the best look for anybody, but. I'm going to get a little inflate in the teeth. I'll divide them once because they're so blocky. That way I can get a little bit more of a feel for what I'm dealing with here. Same thing here. Subdivide, little inflates. It might even make him scream a little bit louder here. And again, like I have to keep reminding myself that his outfit is really going to do a lot of the work here in terms of kind of helping me avoid having to worry too much about anatomy because his outfit is really, So I wanted to kind of have him feel a little bit more like he's got an underbite. So I'm just going to kind of bring this down like this here. Because I don't know, it feels like it's a little bit more of like a caveman-y look in this guy's face to have an underbite. Not on everybody's face, but on this guy's face. Let's kind of work a little bit. Just a little bit taller. And again, like I said, I do want this to be exaggerated a little bit. I mean, everything about this guy is crazy exaggerated. I think I really want to kind of embrace exactly how goofy this guy is, and one of the ways to do that is, I think, to really kind of play around with angles and stuff on the overall look of this guy. Like I especially given the nature of his outfit, I kind of want him to. I want this to be, again. I keep using the word stylized, and I probably shouldn't, but I want this to feel exaggerated. And one of the ways I like to exaggerate things like features and clothes is to kind of bring in angles, more angular looks that might not ordinarily be there. So this might look a little bit goofy at first. I do have a plan for this. I do, like, I kind of am making this look a little bit wonky, kind of on purpose. It doesn't make sense right now because the face is the only wonky thing and everything else is just proportioned like, I guess a standard person. That's not going to be the case for very long. So I'm trying to kind of trust this process here. So I'm just saying this because if you're looking at this and saying, what the hell is going on with this dude's face? One, I agree. I mean, this does not look good, but I think that it will make sense moving on. I want this guy to really feel like he is a very, like, I want him to feel almost hand-drawn and kind of, like oddly hand-drawn. Yo, what's up, Ram? This is Thursdays. I think it's always going to be 6 EST. That way, it's not too late when I'm done, and if I do run over, I don't feel like I'm going to be dragging tomorrow at work. So Thursday is kind of my Thursday at 6 is kind of my little my little routine now. I think I'm going to try and see if I can kind of maintain that. So again, kind of a weird looking face right now. I do want to make sure though that the teeth don't feel too detached from the mouth. So just going to do a little bit of adjustment here. And again, that thing where I did the deformer and kind of brought them in, that kind of made more sense back when they were clenched. doesn't make nearly so much sense now, but I could undo and just kind of put them back in normal place. But again, I'm kind of trying to embrace the chaos a little bit with this guy. I threw this floor off. It's driving me crazy. But yeah, I'm gonna try and embrace the chaos a little bit with this man. Um, and again, I just want this to, I want this to be different. I don't want to just make him look like a guy. I want to make him look like a weird, like just an overall weird guy, a guy who's just drawn differently, essentially. And I think that might work. Now, again, all this work is for a face that's kind of pointed down, right? So we're not necessarily going to see a lot of this from the front, and that might kind of inform, the way I go about sculpting things, because I want to look at from a certain angle. Again, he's got kind of a zombie look right now, but again, there's going to be a lot to kind of balance out the proportions of the face eventually, right? Ram, I would never joke about Paste Pot Pete. It's one thing I'll never joke about is Paste Pot Pete. Let's be clear about that. So, so what I want to do again, like if you remember, if you saw some of my other stuff, I tend to want to get some basic colors in here, some basic idea as to what this is going to look like. It just kind of helps me get into the feel of what's happening here. So I'm just going to really quickly just start throwing some very basic coloring on this guy, just to kind of just to kind of start seeing him as a person. Sometimes I don't want. Sometimes it's better to actually kind of it's better not to do that. Sometimes it's better to to think of it in all grays, because then you kind of you see what you're sculpting better. And that's a good idea if you're the kind of person who likes what they see when they sculpt. I very rarely do. So I'm just going to, good. Let's find that gum color. That's not quite there. Okay, I'll stick with that. And let's go to the other guys here while this color is still available. Now I'll just go here to kind of a yellowish color. And then I'll go to the other guys here and fill that. Okay, so we got that stuff. Let's go back to this color here. Back to the body really fast. Let's fill that with something. We'll go to the eyes and fill that with this color. That way, when I bring in some green, this will make some sense. Color blocking, sometimes it is, and I'll tell you when it is. It's a part of my workflow when I have no confidence that this is going to look good, and sometimes you need to kind of give yourself like a visual roadmap as to where you're headed. You know what I mean? And so this is a character again. Like I don't like what I'm going by here is just one image and 12% of a plan, right? So I think if I can start thinking of him in terms of, okay, this is the overall flow of this guy, then I can start kind of it gives me some ideas as to how then to proceed. If he's just all gray and he doesn't seem like Paste Pot Pete, or whatever the character is, I don't know that I feel quite so confident moving forward. Not to say I feel confident now, but I just think it helps to kind of to know that going forward here, that okay, this is where we're headed with this. I can imagine it now because this is where the outfit is and so on. And right off the bat, I can tell, again, I'm going to be doing lots of crazy stuff to this body to kind of make it look like this outfit. And usually when I'm doing clothes, I just duplicate the body and then make the clothes from the duplicate, right? But for this case, I really don't need to. I mean, for the most part, the clothes are the entire body. So I'm just pretty much going to make chop this body up and make that part of it. But yeah, Ram, I don't always do sometimes I like to keep it gray for a long time, especially if I'm confident that the sculpt will look okay. But sometimes I just need to kind of give myself a little push in one direction. Okay, I can see how I can imagine it now because he's got the outfit on, It does lead to some silly looking things at first, but So let's kind of go through here, and before we even subdivide anything on this dude, let's just start chopping him up, because we don't need to worry about really anything in terms of having to keep this guy together. He doesn't really have any skin showing except for his head. So I'm just going to use the edge loops here. So I'll go to my Z Modeler tool and go over one of its edges and go to poly loop. and I'll just choose a poly loop that's got a nice clean wraparound, like this guy. I'll Control Shift click to make that go away, and then I'll do an auto group, right? So it's going to make the top part a different poly group than the bottom part. And now I can just isolate the top part here, not delete hidden, split hidden, and this will just be the head, right? I'll come up here, and again, you could just do close holes. I'll do the close holes, just gives you those weird triangles, right? So I'm just going to use the ZBrush brush and go on my edge mode and just go to close with a convex hole. And just click and drag to kind of give myself some of these little guys here. It's not going to be pretty, but I'm just going to kind of like smooth this part out while the other part is masked off, just to kind of clean up a little bit. But I just want to have something solid there, because you know how ZBrush hates open holes. So I'll go back here to this color and fill that so that stays there too. You can see this base mesh comes with a uvula, as all base meshes should. I don't know what I'm going to do with this thing, but it doesn't really matter right now, I suppose. All right. Also, it's got gums, which got really kind of bent out of shape when I was under that jaw, so that's weird. Let's get out. It comes with its own tongue too. I don't love it, but Okay, so now let's go to the body, and right off the bat, again, I may as well just grab that color and throw it on there. Boy, that's vibrant. I'm going to go to a slightly less saturated color, just so it feels a little bit less crazy. And again, I can kind of like, obviously I'm going to play around with the top part here. I'm going to give him a bigger collar. I'm going to make this part come up a little bit. And actually what I can do is it this part? Is this part has? Yeah, okay, this part doesn't matter. So what I can actually do is go to the head here. I think that's what I'll do. Actually, this body I don't even need. I'm going to go to the head and duplicate it. So the duplicate head is going to be the one I keep as the head. And the reason why I want to do this is because now, theoretically, right, I can go to this other version of the head with undo history and go back to before I split the head off, like right about here. And I'll auto group, and I'll just I'll isolate this purple thing, and then I'm going to grow this this up a little bit so that I have a little bit more of of the body, so it gets some overlap, right? And I'll delete hidden now. I'll delete the head. So now this has a little more. It's 3 more rows, but it'll kind of overlap that head a little bit more. I just got to do a little bit of fixing right here, which is not a big deal. This is just a little bit of Z modeling, right? So I'll come up here at my little move brush and just bring these somewhat closer together, right? And then I'll just go to my Z modeler, go to my points, and go to stitch and midpoint. Click, click, and click, and click. Okay, so now I have just this. I just want to have a slightly better, slightly higher neckline, right? Again, my plan really is to really go to town on the folds and craziness of his outfit. I really want this to be kind of a, again, in my head, this makes sense. I'm sure you've all been there where it's like, oh, I have some great ideas. This is going to be amazing. And then when it comes to time to do it, you're like, yeah, I have no idea. But my plan. Okay, so let's just smooth this part out a little bit. All right. So I just wanted to have, and it doesn't, again, you're not going to see any of this really because he's got that crazy collar. But I just want to have enough to kind of bring this up, to kind of overlap that a little bit. And again, he's not muscular, so I'm going to kind of really tone this down a little bit. I need to kind of make it baggy, but not because he's muscular. Baggy because it's baggy. So the parts that kind of stick out and be baggy are going to be not the parts that you would see on a muscular person. So that's kind of like the trick too, I think, for me, is to like make sure that this looks bulky and baggy, but not because he's big, right? So like, again, I'm not worried too much about it right now. I'm trying essentially to demuscularize him without thinning him. He's not looking thin. He's got kind of a like a big baggy clown suit, but it's just a matter of where the bagginess is and where you don't want to see. I don't want to see that big groove in his back that you would see in someone with developed lats, right? Like that's not really what I'm going for. So I need to kind of just, you know, just kind of basically play around with the bagginess of this in such a way as to kind of take the idea of muscle, of being muscular, out of your head, right? That's kind of the idea, at least at this point. And again, it's going to be a lot more than this. I'm just trying to, you know, again, kind of just get that idea of being muscular completely out of our mindset here. So I need to kind of like, you know, change where this form is here. We're going to have a little bit more of a bagginess in the crotch area, right? We're not going to be seeing giant thighs. We're going to be seeing, it's not going to kind of come in the middle of the knees here. So like all this, I'm just trying to like smooth without, you know, thinning. So basically, I'm doing that thing where you hold down shift and smooth, and then let go of shift, so it's smooth without shrinking, basically. And he's got like this really interesting kind of thing where kind of like, you know, ties, it kind of like comes together and just ties at this little part of his foot, which again is also awesome. Down here again, it's going to be kind of like it's going to be a big bunchy thing here because it's where all the pant leg has to kind of come together, right? And kind of like bulk up a lot of this. And this is kind of still more of just like a way of kind of convincing myself that this is where things are going to go. So I'm just trying to kind of like, again, get some, I want this to feel almost amorphous in terms of like where the bulges are. Again, not where you want to see them, not where you see them, not where, you know, not where the bicep is, not where the you know, all that stuff is. I just want this to kind of feel a little bit more you know, a lot less like you'd expect to see from a muscular person, right? So I'm going to kind of like bring this part down, for example, like, you know, have this be like that, like more bulky. Right? So all this is just blocking in, and again, I don't even want to, I'm not even going to call it blocking in. It's really kind of blocking out. It's like kind of like getting rid of some of the stuff that you might expect to see from the muscular guy, and just kind of start getting me in the mindset of a guy with a big, bulky clown suit. It's really what it comes down to. I want it to almost lack form, you know. So now I want to do the same. I want to get rid of. I want to separate his little feet. I'm gonna go back to the original body and get rid of that one. So his little boots are going to be a separate thing. So again, I'm going to duplicate. Actually, yeah. Well, no, I'll duplicate it. Not yet. I'll go to my my little polyframe here, and I'll look at where his boots kind of come up to pretty much right about here. And again, you know, I can always add to the boots. I mean, you know, I'm not stuck with the boots as they are, but I think that'll be fine. Control W to make them their own polygon here. And let's get out of this guy here. Let's see what I got. All right, so let's see how much more I need from this one. Okay, Control Shift X to grow my visibility a little bit. Okay, I think that Control Shift X will get me one more. That's probably what I need. I'll just tuck this back a little bit here. I'm just going to mask this part out, invert it, do a quick polish by features to kind of knock that back a little bit here. Okay. And then again, Control W. So now I got this group, got that group, these little guys. Okay, I'll split hidden. And now I got my little feet, and they're just very, very dark. So I'm just going to go to a very, very dark gray. Make sure I have the feet selected before I fill that though. All right. Clearly we're on our way. No, it looks stupid right now, but that's okay. Everything looks stupid at first. Let's go back here. Let's do the hands as well. So I'm going to go to the hands here, and I'm going to inflate these a little bit as well because gloves are, inflate the fingers a little bit. And the gloves, again, they're really, really big. So I'm going to just work on those later. I just want to kind of get the glove. Now, this is not, the gloves are probably going to go a little bit higher than this, but I want to have um, enough of the arm left. Did you guys figure out how to share your posing rig? I can very simply just put it in Discord. I want just let me know what you think. Where should I put it? Like, what thread should I put it in? Like, I don't know if there's a thread for 3D assets or that kind of thing. But just let me know, because I'll just put that Maya file right in there. It's perfectly, take 2 seconds. But yeah, so whatever you think. If there is a spot in the Discord which kind of like is a logical spot for it, then I'll put it in there, tonight. I just need to. I was thinking about that. I was like, I can just put it in Discord, but I just didn't know where to put it because there wasn't like in my mind. I couldn't figure out exactly what made sense, like where the obvious spot would be for that. So yeah, just let me know, because I'll just pop it in there. I'm going to grab this guy and go right about here. So again, same idea. I'm just going to split off these guys. And this is one of those things where, again, I hate looking at this because look at the way it looks, right? But it's going to make sense. It's going to make sense. I have to see exactly Angry Monday. Put them to work. I could do it maybe if I knew how. I just don't. I know so little about how Discord works. I still feel like I don't know what the heck is going on half the time in Discord. Like, I think I get it, but there are certain things. This is where my age shows itself. Like, there's certain things I just don't get. Like, I don't understand. Like, I feel like I don't understand. Like, I still don't quite get how Pinterest works. I know in theory how it works, but I don't think I use it right. Well, I mean, I haven't. I gave up on trying to use it, to be honest, because I know I didn't use it right. But yeah, I mean, and it doesn't, like, people when I say that, people explain it to me. It's like, yeah, I get it, but I still don't get it. I don't know. I'm like I said, I'm an old person. I don't know how this newfangled stuff works. So okay, so here is, but also one of the reasons why I like to start with colors too is because it kind of like gives me a visual cue as to where, like, where I stand with certain parts. Like, how they're set up, whether they make sense, whether they look good. Obviously they don't look like anything yet, but we'll get there. I just I like to kind of block out a little bit of everything, and then kind of just so I say, okay, here's how it looks. Here's where the things are. Here's what's kind of like put roughly into place, and then go from there. So, for example, I just need these to get better real fast. So I'm just going to see if I can just scale this out a little bit. We'll tap here, scale up a little bit, and scale up this way, pull up. So I just want there to be a little bit more of a clearly defined edge to this here and here. How smooth. And again, I know the fingers look stupid right now. The fingers are awful. We know. They're just not. That's one of those things where I might end up doing that when no one's watching, because how fun is it to go through and tweak the way fingers look? I know it's exciting, but maybe not like live viewing exciting. I don't know. So again, and I'll say it probably forever. This is just trying to get a rough approximation of where we're going to be with the shape. The do is, I want this to kind of come in here. So I'm going to go to I'm going to scale my edge loop. I'm going to scale this edge loop out a little bit, scale this in a little bit. And that way I can kind of like start doing that. I kind of want this to feel like it's like folding in on itself, because it's like kind of one of those bulky gloves. So again, just a visual reminder, this is what I want to do. I feel where I find myself most productive in the design or the execution phase. I think so. The cool thing is, right, and this is my problem when I'm working on animations too. Because when you're working on animations or when you're working on design, everything's potential, right? Everything is about, oh, we could do this, and I could do this, and I could do this. And when you're doing that, you're essentially playing with money that's not yours, right? Because like you're not like while you're in that abstract planning stage, anything's possible. The sky's the limit, right? And then when you sit down and say, I actually have to do this, then you end up hating that version of you because that version of you was just being was doesn't know how things work. That version of you was way too optimistic, way too cavalier about about what exactly this entails. So the design phase, it's fun because you kind of feel like the excitement of possibility. The execution phase is where essentially practicality rears its ugly head, right? And so that can sometimes be a real sobering thing. Um, I never feel, and I imagine most of us are probably the same way. I almost never feel the execution is good because the execution is concrete and you can't escape it. When you're designing stuff, you can kind of leave a little bit to like, yeah, I'll figure that out, but it's going to be cool, I'm sure. And then no, it's not. Like it's not that easy to do, and it's not going to be exactly what you thought because what you thought was often kind of like you kind of wallpapered over some of the trickier parts. And it's like, I'll figure something out, and you might, but what you figure out is going to be limited by what's practical and what's realistic. And you know, in the design phase, you know, anything's possible. So I feel more excited in the design phase. Like I'm excited about this because in my like I already kind of know where I'm headed with this. This does not look like where I'm headed because I'm not there yet. But I have I'm confident that it will look the way I want it to look when I get there because I kind of have worked it through a little bit. So in this sense, the design phase wasn't quite just pie in the sky. Like I do have an idea. Then the tricky part, of course, is well, yeah, but will that idea actually come to pass? And that is where I don't know. So always the design phase, I feel more comfortable because the design phase does not require me to actually provide any kind of production. It's all, oh, this would be cool. You ever see that? Like again, this is something with me at least. Whenever like one of the guys or somebody puts a whip image up in Discord or wherever, I'm always like full of ideas. Oh, you could do this and this and this, and I am never full of ideas when it's my own. Like I have no, I'm just like, yeah, this is the best I can do. I can't think of anything else. I'm done. And when it's someone else's stuff, I'm like, oh, so many possibilities. Let's list them all. Yeah, because you know what, I'm not the one doing them, and I guess it's probably like part of your brain that knows that you're not the one who has to do it. It's like, oh, okay, I can just imagine anything then. And that's kind of where my brain is sometimes when I'm in the planning phase. Like when I'm doing, like I was saying, like my animation stuff, when I'm like writing out like the outline or whatever of my next short that I want to work on. These things will strike me as being funny, and oh, visually it'd be kind of fun to do. And then when I come time to do it, like, do you realize that this idea you had for a fun scene has 7 characters in it that I have to animate all of them? You jerk. It doesn't always work out exactly the way you want, just because at some point you have to provide the actual work. So yes, I do love the design part because the design part is free. It's free from actually having to follow through on what you had in mind. So that's where I feel the best. And also, again, on all those areas where you're not really sure what you're going to do, you're like, I'll figure something out. So it'll be something like this, and it'll be something like this for famous last words, because at some point you actually have to come up with what that something looks like, and I don't have that kind of creativity. A lot of people do, and I envy like that kind of confidence you can have going in and say, I'll figure something out. Because part of me, whenever I say that, I know I'm lying. I know I'm not really going to figure something out. I know I'm just going to kind of like end up like retreating back to, you know, the safest design. Like I can't think of anything to put on this guy. Pouches, you know, like, yeah, I mean, that's probably what I end up doing. But no pouches on this guy. It's one thing we can say for sure, but no pouches on this guy. So again, I'm like, this is me trying to give myself a little bit of a form languagey feel to like where I want this to go. I want this to be a much broader, um, broader pant leg. I want this to be really, again, like just ridiculously over extra. And even this is not it. This is just, I'm just trying to, again, just trying to get a feel for what we're ultimately going to be working toward here. I have a lot of trouble sometimes, like with baggy pants. Like it's like I don't want to just make it look like I inflated it. That's pretty much what I end up doing. Um, let's see here. So I'm gonna go to solo mode. What I want to do is I want to be able to get into this knee. I don't know why. This is driving me nuts. I'm gonna go here and polygroup or polyloop. This is easily, by the way, in my opinion, the greatest tool is just being able to polygroup a polyloop, because then it gives you access to, you know, basically everything. You can just grab this and then Control Shift X and just grow this a little bit, make that its own polygroup, right? And then, you know, so I'm gonna mask this out, bring everything back, invert that mask, maybe do a little smoothing here to kind of suck that part in a little bit, and then maybe I have to kind of shrink this a little bit, make this its own polygroup. That way, I kind of, again, I just want there to be like an easier way for me to kind of inflate part of this, but not have it go everywhere. So I'm just going to use polygroups as a way of just kind of giving myself a little bit of like chance to kind of separate that a little bit, just so that you know, it's not everywhere. It's not just an inflate that's happening everywhere. But I definitely need to kind of like work on that. But I just want, again, I want this to feel a little bit more loose, and it's a little bit there. It's not remotely where I want it to be. I think the arms going to need to have that same kind of widening feel like the legs do. So I'm going to scale these edge loops out a little bit, and give myself a visual cue as to where I want them to be, and then just going to bring some of these guys out. And again, you know, I have the same problem sometimes like with belts and stuff. Like when you have things that overlap, like, you know, how do you make them work together? And at some point, I'm just going to choose one part, whether it be the belt or the body, do it the way I like, and then everything else has to adjust. You know, that's how I tend to feel. At some point, I'm just going to like choose one body part, which is going to be what dictates the overall look, and then everything else has to adjust to that. So if I decide here for this arm, you know, I want this arm to look like it's a lot more baggy, well, I'm just going to make this look the way I like it, and then, you know, the glove is just going to have to deal with it essentially. And now I'm just going to add an edge loop or two here. But yeah, so that's kind of where I am. I want to kind of like, I want to push these proportions a lot. I want to really kind of play around with this ridiculous outfit he has, and kind of turn it into, you know, kind of like a feature and not something I'm trying to hide. I want to kind of play it up a little bit. And so this is kind of where I'm just trying to get that to kind of like, you know, make sense. That is a little bit big. I'm not going to lie. I don't know if I was just missing, if I was a little bit confused as to what I was working with. But, you know, I'm just going to make that a little bit less, but not so much. I mean, again, sometimes these things are kind of trying to tell you something. You're going to modify the paste pot. See, there's that tension, right? There's that tension between wanting to make this kind of like, you know, more in keeping with the kind of cool stuff that we usually see, or saying, no, the dude has a bucket, and I'm going to give him a bucket. I think that's where I am. I think I'm just like, look, the guy has a bucket with a cork in it, or whatever that is. I'm going to go with that. And, you know, whatever else happens, what happens. But yeah, I think that I think that's kind of where where I am with this. I'm at the stage here where I'm just like, I want the ridiculousness to be front and center and not, not hidden. So I think I'm gonna stick with the bucket. Just it's a bold choice. I know, but I think I'm gonna kind of, I will say this though, Ram. I will make it the best darn bucket I can. That's right, Jackie. That's right. I made a bucket. This is I am being absolutely loyal and faithful to the concept of this guy with his bucket. And again, like I said, you know what I haven't done in an hour? I haven't saved, so I'm gonna save. That would not have been good. I'm just saying, like, I'm convinced that, whenever I lose work, that even if the stuff I do afterward is fine, I'm convinced that, I missed out on the magic of the first time, even if the first time was actually probably pretty bad. I don't know. Maybe it's just me not wanting to do that again. But there we go. So now we got these gloves looking really ridiculous. Again, I'm at this early stage. If I can, just get a feel for the overall size of things, I think I'll be okay. What I'm seeing here is that this glove feels a lot. I mean, again, it's not a glove; it's just a blocked-in version of a glove. But this glove feels a lot bigger than this one, so I will need to do a little extra work on. I might also end up remeshing these because they got that kind of twist going on, which I don't really love. And I'm trying to get that twist out of there. It's just not really working. But maybe it'll go away when I subdivide it. All right, so let's go here and somehow I polygrouped something, which is not my intention, but that's okay. I'm going to close these holes and then isolate this polygroup, or these two polygroups. Control W, Control Shift S to shrink it. Control W again. So now I have basically, I want to have like this kind of be like a big thick. Yeah, I have news for you, Ram. Those things aren't gold. I don't know what it is, but you know as well as I do, Ram. That stuff ain't real gold. It'll come off. Probably come off in the rain. All right, so let's just slide this edge loop down a little bit, and let's extrude this group down a little bit. I'm going to extrude just once to get a little bit of an extra edge loop there to kind of hold that edge. Now I'll extrude it down twice more. You can see here how it goes through. No big deal. Control Shift Tab, Control Shift X, and then I'll just scale that in so that it comes inside of it. There you go. So just to kind of get us started there. But yeah, definitely in need of some love here, but that's okay. Again, it's on our blocking stages. At some point, I'll probably remesh it. I think probably also, you can see here again, like this here has essentially no wrist, and this one does. And I think it actually looks better when there's no wrist because, again, these are like those big heavy gloves. They're not going to like, conform to the body. So let's just try and get rid of that shape. Again, like I said, so much of this was trying to de-shape him. If that makes any sense. It was trying to kind of get rid of the shape of the body that was kind of like derived from the heroic, proportions. So this is kind of, where we are with this right now. Okay, but I think from a blocking out standpoint, it works. It'll be fine. The bucket's going to make it. The bucket will tie everything together, man. There's no doubt about that. All right, so okay, I want to just for my own happiness, I want him to be a little bit more on the side like this. I think, and I'm going to go transpose master because again, what I was looking at was the silhouette. I didn't like the fact that his back foot was completely covered. Mari Cat is here. See, now everything's good. Mari Cat's here to say, how you doing, Mari Cat? It's been a long time since I got to say hi, Mari Cat. Nice to see you. I'm going to rotate this arm back. I missed it. Keep missing. Right, there we go. Because I want from the front view here, I want this to feel a little more like, I want that bucket to be more. I think that that arm, that little wrist part is getting away there. I'll put it back here from the front. I want the bucket needs to be front and center. So I need to kind of have that hand down because it's going to be a heavy bucket as far as buckets go. Mike T is here. What's up, Mike? Look at this. Look at this. This is exciting. This is exciting. I feel, extra pressure now. Like at some point, I'm going to need to see what you folks might not know is that Mike and I do little collaborations on the fly sometimes. And by collaborations, I mean I'll sculpt something which has the vague indication of being a person, then I'll give it to Mike, and then Mike will turn it into something awesome. And then I get to take half credit because if it weren't for that initial collection of limbs, I mean, where would Mike be? For example, we did Black Dynamite together, and it was awesome. Um, so at this point, I'm kind of at this just generic stage where I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna sculpt a little bit of Paste Pot Pete or a little bit of this or that character, and I'm just gonna give it to Mike to do the Mike T specialty on it, and then it'll look awesome, and then I'm like, yep, that's mine. That's my plan. So Mike, at some point you might be seeing a Paste Pot Pete coming your way. I don't know what you're gonna do with him because God knows I don't know what I'm doing with him, but that's my plan. I am. Speaking of something, speaking of collaborations. So yeah, so it's one thing that if you saw it in Discord, you probably already know. But we have a new little thing that I started doing a while back, which was doing like 2-hour character sculpts. And I recorded them, and they were usually done for my students, stuff like that. But I want to kind of like, they're nice and compact for doing a full character. And one of the that's good. That's good. See, this is why we need Mike here. Okay. So yeah, 2-hour character sculpts. The first one I did was Wolverine. Well, the first one I put up on YouTube was Wolverine. If you look in the Discord, there's a link to it there. If you look at the Stylist League YouTube channel, there is a link to that. That's up there now. The 2-hour Wolverine sculpt. And again, it's just one of those things where I don't pretend, like, depending on where you are in your ZBrush journey, I'm not saying it's going to be world changing, but it's just one of those things where, if there's something that you can get from kind of the idea, just an approach that might change the way you do things. Who knows? But yeah, so it's a 2-hour Wolverine sculpt in ZBrush on the Stylist League website now. Every 2 weeks, probably I'll probably be kind of like uploading a new one. Thank you, Ram. Thank you. Again, like I said, it's a 2-hour sculpt, so it's not going to be 100% airtight. It's just a way of kind of like throwing out some ideas. And Wolverine has some interesting things. His boots are kind of a little funky. His mask is kind of a challenge, for at least it was for me. So that's how I showed you kind of things that I did to try and figure it out. You might find some have other ways of doing it as well. But it's just one of those things where I put it out there. Hopefully, it's useful for some folks. And every couple of weeks, I think I'm going to release another one. The next one that I'm going to release is the 2-hour version of this guy here. I did a Goku based on an image that I saw online. Same idea. 2 hours from a single from a base mesh, just different techniques and ideas. So that'll be the one that I put out there probably in a couple of weeks. Again, if it's helpful, I hope it is. If not, no big deal. But it's just one of those things where it might show you some ideas that of how to do stuff that you've done a million times, but maybe you didn't do it in this way, right? So it might be kind of like just a way to see different ways of doing things. Orlando, what's up, man? Thank you so much for coming by. what you're seeing here, Orlando, in case you're wondering, is 8% of a paste pot peat, a mere 8%. This is not the this is don't judge paste pot peat by what you see here. Judge him by this guy. Yeah, you have to love him. So I'm just going to start where overlay there. So I have the gloves blocked in, we have the little boots blocked in. All right. So I do again. I just want to kind of like plan out a little bit of the head pieces and the collar parts. Again, all just really straightforward, just blocking it in. This little strange butterfly collar. It probably makes more sense to do this with symmetry and then just pop it in place, right? So what I'm going to do, that's right. What I'm going to do is just come up here to a different polygon thingy. I'm going to bring in my regular pose version. Oh, Linda, thank you, man. Yeah, again, I hope it helps. Like I said, I don't pretend that it's going to be a revelation to anyone necessarily, but it's just one of those things where personally, I like to kind of see other people work, even if they're doing things or doing characters that I've done myself, just because they might have a different approach to doing it. You know what I mean? That's kind of like that's where I was coming at with that. So hopefully it helps, right? And also what it does is it gives me motivation to kind of like do some of those 2-hour schools because they're fun. If you know you're not going to be bogged down with every little detail for 3 weeks, it's a little bit more freeing to kind of go in there and play and kind of like refine your workflow a little bit. If you're doing something for a 3D print, for example, and you know that everything needs to be kind of like exact, it can get tiring. You can kind of dread it after a while. And those are kind of fun just because they're not that way, So as far as the collar goes, again, it's a strange kind of a floppy collar. So what I think I'm just going to do, I think I'm just going to use a cylinder top. Is my guess, probably a way to do it. So this is just a version of him with his goofy little expression on it. And I'm going to kind of bring in a cylinder. And this is one of those things where, again, like there might be a much better way to do it. But I just, this is how I tend to make collars in general. So I don't know if this is the best way to do it. Probably not. But I'm going to grab this guy. I'm going to make this collar. I'm going to extend this out, like make it like nice and round. And I'm going to give myself an edge loop, not an edge loop, yeah. Where's my vertical? Yeah, there we go. I want to have like maybe one little loop in there for now. This is my plan. And again, I don't know if it's going to work or not. We'll give it a shot. I'm going to rotate it vertically. I'm going to go to solo mode for a second. This is the front, right? And what I'm going to do is, my cat is meowing. I'm going to just get rid of everything but that, right? And I'm going to now get rid of, I'm going to delete hidden. And I'm going to use my ZBrush to slide this edge loop a little further in to the neck. This is like where the neck is going to go. Hide those faces, right? Hide these faces, and then delete hidden again. Now I'm going to mask out the interior faces, invert that mask, go to my move tool, and kind of pull this up, right? So basically, I'm just kind of like, I'm blocking out this shape. Trying to get it roughly into the area I can imagine this being a little bit more of a a collar. You get a little bit like this, right? Something like this. And now I'm just going to come in here and give myself some edge loops. So insert multiple edge loops, keep polygroup. That way I just get same polygroup here, like so. I'm going to of course give it some thickness eventually, but not yet. Maybe I'll do a little polish here, just kind of like, I like the idea of this kind of being a little bit rounder here, because it's not like a hard edge collar. I think it's more of a floppy one. So I'm just going to do a little polish. And that's kind of, pop it where it needs to go. So it's kind of roughly in place with this guy. I don't know exactly what the proportions are. There's like front to back and that kind of a thing. So while I have that, the move tool still in the same angle as this, I'm going to use my deformer. And symmetry off, give myself only two guys here, and let's kind of start with these. make sure I'm doing this with symmetry, or I mean, you know, in the same way here. Let's go here and help that. There we go. Widen this a little bit, bring this up a little bit here. This is going to be ridiculous. Let's call it what it is, but the music has a cat and kangaroo feel. I'll be honest. That was exactly in my age group, and I don't remember ever seeing Captain Kangaroo. It was always on. I mean, I don't. I say I don't remember seeing it. It's not. I never saw the fact that it was just. I never actually sat down and watched Captain Kangaroo. I was absolutely a Mister Rogers guy, and I feel like maybe they were kind of like. I felt like they were competing. They weren't, but in my mind, you're probably either or. In my stupid brain, I was, I knew Mister Rogers. I was a fan of Mister Rogers. Captain Kangaroo just, what it's like. He was like the human equivalent of Woody Woodpecker, who was again a cartoon character who for some reason I never saw, I never watched. It was on, I just never watched it. I don't know. Is that weird? There are some cartoons and some shows that you just don't see because you can imagine like you have your own version of that character, so you just don't watch it. Oh, see, I always watch Bugs Bunny though, so at least I got the bugs because I was always a Looney Tunes guy. Bugs Bunny and the whole gang. I know he's considered problematic now, but I was always a big fan of Pepe Le Pew just because, at the time, we just thought he was being romantic, not so much what he probably actually was. He meant well, at least in our minds, But he's probably, I guess he's problematic now. But at the time, he was just a hopeless romantic. Kind of mirror and weld this because there's a little bit. You go with what I'm gonna. That face is. It's unique. It's a unique face. It's a very unique face. I think base meshes should have this face on. I think that just to kind of it should be more of a challenge for us. We should have to start every sculpt by paste pot peating every base mesh. That's if you want a real challenge in art, you should have to paste pot peat every base mesh before you start sculpting. I'm standing by that. Okay, so I think that this is a decent starting point here for the collar, just in terms of getting the overall look. It looks like a pilgrim. Now I'm going to come in here and insert it and see where it is relative to my dude here. Let's turn off symmetry and do this thing. Let's see what we can do. And again, even this, right? I mean, he's going to have that big crazy bow tie, so it's not even necessarily something I need to worry too much about where it comes together in the front there. I just need to have it, kind of come over his outfit here. And again, I am going to give it thickness. So if I have trouble getting it on top of certain things, then I can just say, well, that's where the thickness is going to go. It's going to kind of it's going to get thicker. So we don't worry too much about it. I think that maybe though this part of the collar needs to kind of come up and be flopping around a little bit because he's in midair, right? So I think it makes sense for the collar to be a little bit floppy. It's one of those things where it would be fun to animate because his little hat, his little bow tie, his little collar, they could just be flopping all over the place and just constantly just taking away from his super villain look. I would not want to rig a floppy collar for the record. I don't think it'd be a very good move, but someone should. It's dynamite. Damn, yeah. So Z modeler, like again, I'm sure it definitely, yeah. Like using Maya, having used Maya, just you kind of just know what tool would work, right? Just because extrude, poly, and that kind of stuff. You just do it. But yeah, it's like anything else. I think that it is something I really like about Z modeler is that I feel that even though like the menus are huge, you only got to look at three of them to find out what you want. So and I've really kind of like I used to always send stuff into Maya to do modeling, and I've kind of like forced myself to stop doing that, honestly. It's for a good it's good for good reason. Like I mean, ZModeler is really good. It's a really great modeling tool. I think of ZBrush as a sculpting program that allows you to do some modeling, but it might be kind of unfair. Like the ZModeler is actually just a legitimately good modeling tool. Um, what I don't the problem I have is not with ZModeler. Honestly, it's just with I'm not used to modeling with a stylus. Like I'm so used to using the mouse when I'm modeling. It always felt more exact. It doesn't. It's not. But it just always felt that way to me. So I kind of like always prefer to use a mouse. And it's weird. I could just use a mouse in ZBrush, but that's blasphemy. You don't use a mouse in ZBrush. So it's this weird hang up I have with about modeling with a pen. So I'm trying to get better at that. I'm trying to to do it more. But yeah, that's ZModeler again. It's hard to imagine, man. There was a long time but there was no ZModeler. I want to see if I can remesh this just to kind of get a nice edge loop around here. I don't always have a lot of confidence in remeshing working with a small thing, but see, it doesn't quite work there. Yeah. Let me see. I think there's a way. Let me just see if I can just do a group loop. Turn on the polish. So group loops is awesome for this, right? Because it kind of, man, polish one. We have to increase the loops. This is like this is like I think we saw on Daniel Bell talking about using group loops essentially as a way of cleaning up the edges of geometry. I think it was. I use a mouse and ZBrush. Yeah. Oh, you use a mouse and ZBrush? Ran. It feels so wrong. Like even if I'm just like moving things around, even if I'm just like just selecting things, I just feel it's like painting with a shoe. It doesn't make any. I can't do it. But that's I mean, if you can make what you make while using a mouse, that's a trick, because God knows I would not. It's like when I'm in Photoshop, even if I'm just using menus, like I can't use a mouse for this. This is Photoshop. So I'm going to use extrude, and I'm going to just extrude polygroup. I'm going to extrude it inward, so that way I don't have that big empty space. And of course, when you do that, it goes inside out, so I have to flip it. Why is it not? Hang on. Go to polygroup. Oh, right. I forgot. I have two polygroups. Control W first, and now I can flip it. That was weird. Shoebox. Hey, if it's something they can buy. Yeah, I mean, I learned to compete with the mouse too. It's true, and it did take some time, but like for example, I see, and I'm kind of the opposite, right? Because there are people who use like the stylus with Maya, like when they're animating. Like, I'm just like, how can you? I just, mouse only controls. Yeah, that's the mouse is not welcome in ZBrush. It's when the mouse shows up, like the record skips and everyone just stops and looks at like, can we help you? Kind of like me whenever I went to a party. So this is extra thick. This is thicker than it would ordinarily be, but for two reasons. One, I'm going to end up bulking up the outfit a little bit too, but also it's again, if I want to print it, I want to make sure it's thick enough. And again, it'll probably end up overlapping a lot more with with the outfit. Plus we have the bow and all that kind of stuff. But is there creases going on here? Because I feel like this edge is way sharper than it should be. Maybe it's just because I put bevels on there and it's kind of keeping it. Let me just see. Are there creases? Crease all? Nope. All right. It's just really hard edge, which is fine. Let's see if polishing it will help a little bit. But yeah, this is a little thick, but again, I want this to be, like I want this to be print friendly, and I'd much rather I can always just remove the poly groups eventually and just like re-extrude it if I need to, but I want this to be substantive for now. What I could actually do if I really wanted to, just because it's bothering me a little bit. It's bothering me more than I care to admit. I'm not going to lie. So I'm just going to delete hidden, do a quick little polish here, and I'm just going to go dynamic subdivision so that I can add a little thickness. That way I'm not married to it. So I'll add a little thickness here, not that much. And I'll go to offset into negative so it's lower toward the body. Point, let's say 1 or something like that. And it's looking a little bit weird here, and I think it's because these little outside edges are just a little bit wonky. So let's just see, can I polish this a little bit? But maybe I just need to get rid of these edges. This edge here, you can see it's like kind of like goofy here. So let's just go to insert and then alt and get rid of that. Yeah, I feel like I have to go back a little bit, guys. I have to go back a bit. Go back to before I beveled. Look at all this stuff. All right, fine. Sometimes it hurts, but sometimes you got to do it. Okay, so I'll just go to dynamic now. Give it some thickness. Because it was thick and I was okay with it being thick, but not that okay with it being thick, or not okay with it being that thick. So let's just this is going to be, again, this is going to be the thing. I don't know if you guys have this, but every project, there's some part of the sculpt, and it's usually something that on the surface seems completely innocent and benign. There's always something that ends up like taking up all of my attention. I can never get it to look the way I want it to look, ever. And I can tell you right now, it's going to be this collar. It looks okay now, but it's going to end up being this collar. I can just tell. It's going to be the collar. Because it's one of those little non-specific shapes that can go either way, and I'm always going to think it needs to be better. We got to get the beret. A 3D connection mouse. I think Mike and Bradley have those kind of 3D mice. I can't. Like, I have my little vertical mouse. That's as fancy as I get. I do love my vertical mouse. I remember trying to get Mike on board with that. It did not go as planned. He was not a fan. All right, so yeah, we'll get the beret roughly in place. We'll get the bow roughly in place, and we'll see where we are at that point. So this is, but I think the collar is not quite so obnoxious in the picture, but I think we need to make it obnoxious. He has a Snagglepuss color. Snagglepuss. That's another one I think I didn't watch. I think I thought that was too close to the Pink Panther. All right, so hat. He also needs the eyebrows too. So much of this is going to be the eyebrows. Do so much of the work for this dude. Uh, you know, Mike, you know that there are certain things that just like you just never end up liking, and no matter and again, it's one of those things that you're not going to. It's going to be part of this larger whole that you're going to ignore most of it, but your eye just keeps getting drawn back to it. But again, it's not right now. I was making a prediction that that's going to be the thing. It's going to be the thing. Bring in some more folds here. Okay, so I'm going to bring in a really quick bow tie stand-in, just because I don't want to get too much into sculpting the bow tie right now because I want to get to the hat, but I need to have something to kind of connect the two parts of the collar, and you know, so let's put this off and just do a quick bow tie starter. This is a start. This is your starter bow tie. This is not your real bow tie. This is your starter bow tie. Go to my deformer. I'm in a deformer mood tonight. I could have used flatten probably, but I'm in a deformer mood. So really quick, the world's most generic bow stand-in. Makes it stage right even. Over here to this. Heavens to Murgatroyd. Someone explain to me who Murgatroyd was. Heavens to Murgatroyd. Murgatroyd? Is that what that is? Murgatroyd? Is that a person? Is it a name? If it is a name, I'd like to know why there aren't more Murgatroyds around. I think that, it's a name that could stand to have a renaissance. Like Blanche. It's not a great name. I'm not gonna lie. It's not the best name in the world. But the only reason why I think that name needs to come back is because I can't imagine there being like a 9-year-old Blanche, right? Like that seems to be a name that you inherit when you turn 60. Not a name that you could ever have as a child. And yet, if there are Blanches, then they must have been Blanches when they were children too, right? And that doesn't. I mean, I can't imagine that. It's hard to imagine that, right? Like, I don't know. There are names like that it's hard to imagine them belonging to people who are, like younger. And Blanche, I'm just telling you, Blanche is one of them. I don't know where this came from, but it was on my mind, so we need to talk about it. But there are other names like that, like Helen. Like, are there young Helens? Maybe there are. And that's another thing, man. Yeah, like it's got other meanings, and probably not ones that you want to have. I mean, my name, Brad, has another meaning. It means tiny little nail that you use to hang frames. It means a lot to me. It's a family name. We hung a lot of photos. Just kidding, but it's according to a very helpful linguist at Home Depot. Yes, Brad means very small nail. Make of that what you will. But, I think there's something wrong with that, personally. Yeah. All right, so let's just, again, these are, I will say it again, these are stand-ins, but these are just kind of little visual representations of where we're eventually going to go with this. Little bend curve, little twist. Well, the bummer is my name is Brad. It's not even Bradley. Like again, at least Bradley Color he's got the option, right? He could say, "Call me Brad, call me Bradley," I don't have the option. It's just Brad. Like they couldn't be bothered just to add the Lee at the end, just to kind of say, maybe he might want to go by something a little different. No, no options for me. Just call him Brad and be done with it. Screw that kid. I mean, it's not really a big deal, but I think it would be cool to be able to say, you can call me Bradley. I can't. I mean, I guess I could say it, but I mean, it would be kind of it would be a bit of a lie. You could call me Bradley, it just wouldn't be accurate. What's worse is I think they used to call me Bradley, like I guess kind of like as like a like an affectionate thing. But well then, friggin' make it official. What the hell? I'm dredging up all kinds of stuff. I'm dredging up all kinds of childhood childhood issues tonight. The Hillside Groatmans. Yes, you know me, Brad Groatman of the Hillside Groatmans. That's how I introduce myself. That's how I should. I should do that, like just to see people go, oh. Because what else would you say? Like, if you don't know what I'm talking about, it's like, oh yeah, of course, the Hillside. We should think of like there's like the Hillside Strangler, which I don't think is what we're going for there. Isn't that a thing? And I'm watching a lot of true crime recently. Let's auto group this, just so we can kind of, you know. I feel like I've covered a lot of ground tonight. Problems with my name, problems with other people's names. I still haven't given him his hat. Kind of forgot about that. I have to do that at some point. Oh yeah. Let's just bring this whole thing up so it's kind of like inside this. A little bit of this thing. Again, stand in. It's just a stand-in, and yet I'm spending all this friggin' time on it. Well, because the whole point of a stand-in is for it to give me an idea of where it's going to look like. But when it looks so bad, I don't want that to be the idea. Gotta bring this collar in. I told you this collar's going to drive me nuts, but I gotta bring this collar in, so I don't want to see the green underneath his shirt. I guess you would see it, maybe. All right. Anyway, this collar looks like crap, but it's okay. This is not the actual color. This is just it's the prequel color. All right, I lied. I think it's gonna drive me crazy. Everything on his neck is gonna drive me nuts. But again, stop focusing on the stupid stand-in bow tie, which you're going to end up replacing with a real bow tie later. Stop it, Brad. All right. Okay. Hat time. This was fixing. Boy, these hands. Look at those fingers. I don't know what happened there. That's it's not what you call a good-looking hand. It's just not. I mean, I've seen hands, and this is not one. But oh my god, yeah, definitely going to be messing around with these fingers in between videos because holy mother of God, that is not a good look for anybody. Yeah, I sculpt and I paint kind of the same way. I put like I put everything in badly, and then go back and try to like. But I mean, when I say I put everything in badly, I mean I put everything in without a whole too much concern for how good or bad it looks. My thinking is, I kind of put everything together and then slowly just start tweaking and whittling away until what I'm looking for finally shows up. Right? That's kind of like how I do it. I kind of just keep like you know, I want to. That's why I think that's why I block everything in a little bit first, just because like I need to know that everything is there. That way, when I'm working on stuff, I'm like, okay, I can see how this is going to fit in with something else first. But yeah, and animation too. I am absolutely kind of a straight ahead animator, only because again, I think it's a confidence thing. But I don't feel confident that if I like block everything in, that like I'm gonna like where I started. So like before I get to say, the end, I want to make sure the first 20 frames or the first 40 frames are exactly what I want. That way, I say no matter what happens, I know this first part works, right? And so yeah, it might be a patience thing, it might be a confidence thing, but I need to know as I move forward that I'm already in a position that I'm happy with, um, or at the very least, I'm in a position that I feel can be worked with, can be adjusted, can be fixed, can get better, so on, right? Like, I don't expect this. I'm not, to be clear, I'm not happy with this, but I'm confident that it's not beyond fixing. That it's not going to be, I'm confident that it's going to actually make sense eventually, because I can imagine it. But that's kind of how I am generally with this. I need to kind of like I need to feel like I'm on a path to something that's going to work. Um, and the one of the ways I do that is by just like getting everything to 10%, or to 8%, so that I'm like, okay, again, this can be salvaged, and I think I mentioned this before, but one of my favorite things to do is to tell myself, I'm just blocking this in. I'll come back and do it better later. And a lot of times I never come back and do it better, but I need to kind of like convince myself that, you know, this is not a problem. This is going to end up looking better. So don't get bogged down with it. Move on, and that's kind of, it's a useful fiction that you tell yourself sometimes that, yeah, it'll get better. It's okay. I'm just throwing color just for fun. I don't know. Okay. But yeah, the hat. Okay, the hat. Let's bring in the hat. So for the hat, I'm going to start with a duplicate of the head. Um, right, and I think that's what it comes down to. And that's, listen to Mike, because Mike, he'll work on something that he started 5 years ago, and it's not because he works slowly. It's because it's for the same reasons. Like he'll work on something, he won't call it finished because he's never satisfied. So we're like, oh, I started this guy 5 years ago, and I didn't finish it because I wasn't satisfied with it to call it finished. So I'll start doing some more work on it. And I think he's gotten some really good, in my opinion, I could be wrong, but he's gotten some really good mileage out of sculpts that he started a long time ago and just never called done. And again, sometimes you need that kind of time away just to kind of like recharge your batteries and kind of like, because I think one of the worst things you can do is is call it a sculpt done because you're tired of it, not because you're happy with it, but because you're tired of it. Right? It's a bad reason to call something done. And I say this from experience because too often when I'm doing sculpts, especially when if I'm printing them, and it comes time to kind of figure out what the base is going to be. I'm just so over it. I'm just like, oh, I'm just going to put it on a black base, be fine. And that's nothing wrong with that, but like, it's often kind of a creative opportunity lost just because I was so over it. And it would be better to put it in a folder, come back to it a year later, when you're not bogged down by the several weeks or months of work you've just done. But, okay, now I'll look at this with fresh eyes, and now I'm going to think about making a base. And like, I honestly think that when it comes to bases, if you don't have a great idea for a base from the start, you should finish the sculpt, work on something else for a long time, then come back when you're not tired of it and say, okay, now I'm going to get in base mode, because it's a whole different way of thinking, at least for me. And I can't do it necessarily as part of the same process as actually creating the character sculpt, because it's just so um, you know I make amazing spheres, dude. If you're making a sphere and you start with a cube, that's impressive. That's all I'm saying. The faces. Thanks, Mike. Again, this is kind of where this idea here. You can see I'm purposely kind of doing the weird element here where I'm kind of like having I have two heads, where I kind of have like these little angular areas that are kind of weird, and this little kind of like offset thing. I kind of want that. I'm going to try and end up putting that in the clothing as well. You're not seeing it there yet because it's not there, but I do. I want to really, especially when it's something that is just kind of monotonous. I want to kind of make the shape do a lot of the work, and I haven't done a lot of that yet. This is kind of the face does kind of give a little bit of an indication of what I'm thinking in terms of like some angular stuff and some offset stuff that I think might be kind of fun. And again, just to go back to what I was saying to Ram before, though, this is all stuff that makes sense and sounds good in the abstract in the planning phase. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen, but that's my plan. All right, so hat time. So the reason why I made a duplicate of the head is just because I would like to have the beret part, the actual part that covers that kind of like goes around the head. I want to actually have it go around the head, actually have it be like a band. And to do that, I'm going to use the slice curve to make this into an actual band. So I'm going to go to, my slice curve thingy here. Slice curve, there it is. And I'm going to hold down Control and Shift and also hold down the space bar and change this to the brush radius. So now it's going to use the radius of my brush, right, as a way of kind of slicing in a polygroup. So Control Shift, click and drag. I'm going to do that. So it's going to kind of give me a nice clean strip that goes right through the head. Maybe I'm going to come up with a different angle here because he's got a little bit of a jaunty angle there, kind of like that. Not too much. But the reason why, again, so I want to have this. I don't want to like make a cylinder or a strip and try and conform it to the head. I'm just going to make a strip from the head. And that's what I want right there. So now I'm going to go back to my selection tool. Now I can just isolate this guy. Right, delete hidden. I'm going to remesh this with adaptive strength down to 0. Same. That way it'll kind of give me a nice clean thing here. And again, I'm going to make it that purple. I'm going to bring back the other head. Obviously, this needs to be a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to use inflate for this. That way it kind of just stays in place like this. And again, I'm thinking in terms of printing, so I don't want to have any gaps. So I'm going to use, I'm going to close this. So I'm going to go to close convex hole, and then just fill that with color, right? Just going to give myself a little, go to insert single edge loop. And this is where, like Ram, you were saying, modeling in Maya. I don't crease a lot. It's just because I'm not used to using creases. I just use edge loops to actually hold the shape. I'm going to get rid of these two to kind of clean it up so that it's not bumpy, and then just drag out my new ones so that it's nice and clean. All right, Control Shift tap on this, Control Shift click and drag, auto group. That way now I have top and bottom groups. I don't know, it's just something I like to do. And fill that again to be sure. All right, so now I have, the first part of this, the band. And you can kind of see again, it's kind of comes up and flops over, which again, I'm going to kind of like fake. I'm just going to start with the sphere. So I'm going to go to my little move tool here. And while I'm on the band, this, just going to control drag up a copy, swap that out for a poly sphere. And then, I'm going to split it off just because I want to be able to work on these things separately. But just going to do a little bit of this action. Something like this. I'm going to use my, see how this happens sometimes? That drives me crazy. I don't know why that happens. It doesn't make any sense for that to happen. It just doesn't make any sense at all. I'm going to move it over here. This is my solution. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to mirror and weld it. Turn off local sim for a second. Mirror and weld it. Hide the original. Delete hidden. So now I have this one. I'm going to mirror this back because I do want it to be that direction. And now if I go to my bend curve, it shouldn't do anything because basically it did. Ian, I remember I was trying to show Ian this, and I couldn't. I don't think I can get to it. But so here's what I do now. Sometimes just mirroring and welding, and just kind of like using the mirror and welded one works because the history isn't part of that. But that time it didn't. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to export this out. I'm going to export it out as an OBJ, and now I'm going to import it back in as an OBJ, and that one is going to basically be its own thing, right? Paste Pot Pete. What I love, by the way, about doing this Paste Pot Pete thing is that the Maya scene that I used to pose in is called Paste Pot Pete Pose. I love it. Let's see. So anyway, I exported this thing out. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one now. Brand new. I'm going to insert a random shape. Doesn't really matter what it is. Now I'm going to import that exported hat. It's going to come in right in the same spot. Now the one bad thing is that the move tool does not remember, you know, the angle, the axis. So I have to kind of like just guess it. But that's not really a big deal. But now if I go to bend curving, it's not gonna return it back to the other thing because it does not know that this ever was anything other than this, right? See, yeah, you saw the agony there, Ram. You saw it. Let's bring this down. Now I'm going to have this swing back because he's, you know, he's jumping. I have this actually come up a little bit. So one of these, of course, I don't, you know, I'm using this picture as reference, but he's not jumping in this picture. So a little bit of a different thing. Now I'm going to go here to move infinite depth. Do a little smooth that. To kind of get a little bit more of a floppy thing happening here. I don't know what kind of hat this is. I'm not gonna lie. Like so. All right. So now what I'm gonna do is let's see what we got here. Well, I'm probably just gonna duplicate. Again, I could make this all one hat, but I don't see the point, to be honest. So I'm actually let's just straight up duplicate this. I'm gonna just duplicate this subtool and bring this down, scale it in a little bit. Scale it in this direction a touch. Because basically I want to have like the folds kind of like work for me here. So oops. So basically I just want to kind of have this part here kind of come out, and let's see if we can get this to work here. Let's grab this, mask it. I'm going to give the illusion that this is coming down in front of the hat. Replace these. So honestly, something like this is probably going to be enough to give that impression, just to kind of that the, you know, again, once it has some subdivisions and it's got some kind of like some little folds, but I think that'll be fine. If I have this looking like this and looking at overlap a little bit, maybe I'll actually just use them together. Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll actually do it the right way. Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to grab the original hat. I'm going to merge them down. What the heck, man? Let's just do it. So I'm going to fill this. I move tool, go to my gear, choose remesh by union, so it sews them together, and then it's going to remesh the same. There you go. Fill it. So now, you know, have the remesh by union is like the greatest. I love remesh by union because it's cleaner than Dynamesh. It kind of connects things without destroying everything. I really dig it. It's the part of the Wolverine. Oh, thanks, Stolo. Hey, it's good to see you again, man. It's been a while. I haven't seen you for a while. The Deformers, I've really just like I've really come to love that part of the process. Deformers are just so okay. They're just so useful, and they're like there's just when you're blocking stuff out, it's such a quick way to do it. Like so much that I used to kind of have to rely on trying to get the move tool to work. I don't need to worry about it anymore. The bend curve does so much of the work for me now. I love it. It's so yeah. When I was working on the Wolverine and on the Goku that's coming out, like I really over relied on that, especially when you're blocking stuff out and you want to have nice clean shapes. That's just where it's at. I just really love it. Let me get this hat. And again, I'm looking at this guy coming down like this. And I'm wondering if this is just going to be too. Just want to see here because I just feel like it's just weird that he's like you can't see him. It's just weird that this whole guy is essentially looking away from us. I don't know if that's from a presentation standpoint, whether that's a great idea. So let's just see. Let's just do a quick save here, but let's just do a quick transpose and see if it makes any sense to bring the head up a little bit. It's not perfect, but it'll do. Even that, I think, might just be, yeah, I think that makes more sense. Let's see if that works for us. I mean, you can't have like the face completely obliterated. You can't completely, hidden. So, I think that'll work a little bit better. I think what I want to do now is make that hat a little bit more flopping in the breeze here because it is again like kind of looking to make this look a little bit ridiculous, as you may have gathered, as I may have mentioned already. So maybe it's kind of like maybe I'm gonna have this like this. Keep it down the head here a little bit, but I'm gonna keep this where it is. So bring this part up. Like this little bit here. It's not Dragon Ball. It's not Dragon Balls. But Bradley, I did mention on the stream. I even showed the picture of Goku, and that's coming out 2 weeks. This hat is just not working that way. It's not gonna do. I'm gonna keep it like this for now, but I might end up completely rebuilding this hat. I kind of like the idea of it kind of like being more like flopping like that, but or at the very least just a little bit less, maybe more like this, so we can see it more. But yes, see, I have to, and again, like I am not an expert in anime in any way, shape, or form. I don't even know if Goku is part of Dragon Ball. I don't know. I don't know anything. However, that is as close as I have come sculpting that character, and it looks mildly like the concept art. So I'm calling it a win. See, again, I mentioned there are always going to be certain things that just drive me crazy. I think this hat is going to be. I mentioned the collar. Could be the hat too. You don't know. I might, I might be so bold as to reverse the hat over here, um, because I feel like if it goes off to the other side, it's just going to get lost in the shoulder, and I don't like that idea so much. There's going to be a bit of a design conundrum here with the hat in terms of where it needs to be to have a good look in terms of the silhouette. I think that's going to be a little bit of a sticky wicket, as we say. Um, but I just don't. No, Bradley, this is Paste Pot Pete, man. We've talked about this. We've talked about Paste Pot Pete. He's a Marvel character, and where I'm finding them is literally going online and typing in obscure Marvel characters. Like literally, that's what I'm typing. I'm typing. I keep saying taping, typing in. Um, so yeah, this is you know, I think something like that will be a good way to go for not being Dragon Ball. Like, yeah, oh, it's not Dragon Ball. Okay, yeah. Well, it does help because Goku, um, like a lot of characters, I think from there, he lacks facial features. He doesn't really have much of in the way of a nose, so I got to save a lot of time. Didn't have to worry, didn't have to make any time, didn't have to spend any time sculpting features because didn't really have much of a nose. In fact, that was the trickiest part, honestly, is to try and make a nose that wasn't there, right? Because he has a nose, but it's just not drawn in the 2D, in the anime. It's just not drawn very distinctly. And I don't know how. Same thing with the eyes, right? Because the eyes are they're very like almost they're so big. They have to be so big in order to be that flat. In order for the part showing through, that you kind of almost have to kind of squash them, scale them in, to flatten them a little bit. Which is again it's just a weird thing to do with eyes. I don't like the idea of flattening eyes. I always try and just make them big enough so that the visible part of the eyeball is flat-ish. But yes, see, I mean, Monday, thank you, because like Mike has been saying this to Bradley for a while. He needs to watch Warriors, and I think that the running wisdom is that Bradley doesn't watch movies if they were made, you know, before 1990 or something like that. But I'm gonna be honest, I don't remember much about that movie. I remember seeing it, but I remember very little about it. All right, so I'm going to stick with that for now. I think that when I add hair, it might it might work a little bit better. Again, these are all assumptions which may or may not bear out. We don't know for sure. I need to add eyebrows, and I want to add a little bit of hair. So I'm just going to add a quick little version of eyebrows here, and I'm going to use the topology brush for that, because why not? I'm going to come here and drag out. It's ridiculous. He's maybe not that long. He's got some really serious eyebrows, though. Boom, 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 boom. Can't tell. Yeah, it's there. Okay. Eyebrow. Not an amazing eyebrow, but it's an eyebrow. Right off the bat, right? When you get these ridiculous eyebrows, first thing I'm going to do is get rid of this edge so it's not so bumpy anymore. And then just bring back an edge so now it's cleaner. This has got a little bit of a twisty thing happening I don't love. So let's just delete hidden. Come here and just flatten this out a little bit. Just do this whole thing. Flip it. Okay. I'm going to uncrease this. I don't like the creases. Creases make them too hard edged. I'm going to add edge loops here. I'm going to go to geometry, go to crease, uncrease all, subdivide once, and then just remesh with the seam. That way it'll make it cleaner. It'll give me a little bit more, a few more faces to kind of play with. I can go with that. All right. That's going to be my stand-in, my standard basic eyebrow for this guy. Again, obviously we'll do actual sculpting on this. Obviously. However, this needs to come away from the eye, from the skull, like that. It needs to come away from the skull. We really should, Bradley, because again, like I say, I don't remember much about it. I remember that one scene, and that's pretty much the extent. So it's it'd be almost new to me too, at least in the sense that I really have no recollection of much. I'll bring this way down. This dude has eyebrows, but they're like almost in his eyes. Bring them out a little bit. Now we're going to mirror this over. This over here. This is one of those things where I'm not going to draw that whole thing out again. I feel like, I got a shape that I didn't hate, and pretty sure I would never get that shape again. So, and again, everything's just in a temporary spot, but I don't know what color eyes he has. I don't know. But I need to make them something because that's going to also drive me a little bit crazy. I'm just going to go. I'm going to show you. I'll just go toy plastic for the eyes for now, just because I can never find toy plastic. Where's toy plastic? There it is. Material, fill. All right, go back to basic for everything else. And let's just give him a little something so we can get a feel for that. Let's come in there and just throw in some black. We'll always love watching from the shadow. Bradley, it's easy to be fast if you're not concerned with it looking good. It's easy to be fast if you're not concerned with the results. You know that that's my wheelhouse is bad and fast. Go here and do a little bit of this. These are one of those things where it probably makes sense to do this before symmetry. So I'm going to go here and go to my paintbrush, and I want to paint an eye color here, but I don't want to paint over the black. So I'm going to change my poly paint mode, which I think you can see, to colorize, which should allow me to paint color without going over the black, right? Yeah, there you go. So I'm going to go with, I don't know why that's so bright. Look how dark this is. Why is that so bright? I don't know. These are excellent questions. But I have this set to a very dark green. It's a very dark green. Why is that? Oh, because it's colorized. Never mind. I understand. Oh, Bradley, you're just being nice. People shouldn't be allowed to, to say nice things when we all know it's not true. I said it to multiply. I can make it darker. There you go. See? Figured. Okay. Now if I can go here to colorize, maybe you can go a little bit with a lighter color. Just a little bit, but I'll go to lighten. All right, little poly paint. Okay. I just want to have a little something there so that don't unmask it, so that the eyes just don't look, So let's go here. All right, there we go. So now he looks like he's got some eyes. Let's subdivide the face just once, just because, it was looking a little too. Everything else had a little bit going on, and the face was just so ridiculously blocky. The last thing I'm going to do before I figure that this is a decent block out is I want to give myself an indication of the hair. Again, because I'm going to be printing this, no fiber mesh, and even if I weren't going to be printing this, no fiber mesh. I don't really feel comfortable using fiber mesh. I don't think I'm very. I don't have a knack for it. So a little bit of hair here. So we're going to go to something with no subd levels like the eyebrows. Just going to bring in the littlest goatee. Why not? Sounds like a children's book. The littlest goatee. Put a black for this, or dark, dark, dark. Put it off. And let's do the goatee. And again, the goatee is not going to be a good. I should have done. Yeah, you know what I'm going to do? Yeah, screw that. I'm going to delete this. I have a better idea, because let's use a curve brush. I mean, why wouldn't you use a curve brush? I'm going back to my eyebrows here. Orlando, everything's easy when it looks like this. It just needs to. It looks so stupid, but that's again. This is my secret, right? This is my secret. You sculpt a stupid character who looks stupid. How can you go wrong? You can't accidentally screw up and make it look good. He looks stupid. It's right in my wheelhouse. I'm gonna use Curve Alpha. Even though I don't like the one problem I have with Curve Alpha is that it doesn't like the number of subdivisions going around the curve are way high. The number of subdivisions going along the curve are way low. So you have to do a lot of remeshing. But I'm gonna go to my Curve Alpha and change the alpha to the Alpha 15. This kind of like implodey guy has a great little like crenellation around the outside. It kind of has like that same kind of hair plumpy feel. I know there are other hair brushes, like curve brushes that do hair. I have a couple of them, but I'm just gonna go with the one that's right here. I'm gonna make this a little less pointy. I think by default it's got this weird repel strength thing going, which I'm not really a fan of, so I'm gonna get rid of that. And let's rotate. Let's just hide the body for now because this is kind of getting in the way while I'm trying to it's getting in my goatee way here. So let's just do a little. Let's just try something here. All right, there we go. Perfect. Now I'm going to go to my Z intensity and tone it down so that it's more flat, right? So it's not quite so circular in its shape, which is a really cool little thing. But you can see here, this has a really kind of cool like up and down thing happening. A little bit of these little ridges, right? Which to me is kind of what I was going for. I'm going to split this off from the eyebrows, and then just kind of rough this into place. And again, I want this to kind of be. He looks a little goofy, so I'm okay with that. I'll bring this up here. And again, like Bradley. Again, because you and Mike have this curse where you actually make good looking stuff, and making good looking stuff takes time. Now, and making stuff that looks okay doesn't take a lot of time. Making good looking stuff Takes a lot of time. And like I think generally speaking, I think there's that thing that George Lucas said something about like special effects. Like the first 80% takes 10% of the time. The last 20% takes the rest of the time, and I tend to stop at the 80 at the 10%. That's again that's where and it's because a lot of it's just because I can't think of anything else to put here. And that's when I see like people's sculpts like for like online and for sideshow like where they have all these amazing details I would have never thought to put in there. It's just kind of like one of those things that I think that some of those ideas come just kind of because you're spending a lot of time, and I tend to I think I kind of like get away from it before before those moments occur. So, but like there's so many sculpts like that where you can see all these details, and it's just like a character with clothes, and yet somehow there's all these folds and seams and stuff that I would have never thought to put. It's very intimidating sometimes. So, you know, my solution is make this guy. All right, I love the fact that with his hat missing, it looks like he's wearing a headband, which is almost better, but it's not. So you can see here that the curve alpha, you can see, look at how many subdivisions going around, but the number of subdivisions going here are so small. There's probably a stroke setting that I just don't know to fix that. I just don't know what it is. So I just don't know. Probably a stroke setting, like kind of the number of steps along the way. There probably is. That's probably one of those things where it'd be helpful if people, tell me what's what, because I just don't know any better. I'm going to Z-mesh this with a low adaptive speed, a low adaptive size, so it's a little more evenly spaced. Mike Pavlovich, that's how I learned that. A little bit of a thing here. I'll come back and add those little indentations a little bit later, when we have more points and stuff like that. But mainly, I just want to have this. Look at this. What the heck is going on with this crazy crap here? Someone explain to me how that happened. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of those faces. Got my mask circle. Delete hidden. I'm going to polish this up a little bit. Close holes. But look at this. Like we have some weird crap here. Like what the? Okay, don't smooth. Don't smooth. All right, there we go. For goodness sake. What the heck? There we go. Right. Beautiful, fantastic. Well, that's what that means is it means that you can over time you essentially multitask, right? Like, you do one sculpt, and you put it down because you get distracted by another sculpt, and like, oh, technically speaking, you're like those people who are like doing 6 things at once. You're sculpting, you're just not doing it all at the same time. But at some point, eventually, you end up with like, these sculpts that are just insanely detailed, insanely innovative, and I end up with a guy in a green jumpsuit shooting glue. Nothing wrong with that. Just saying. All right. So little gotta get my snake hook brush just because, in honor of Ashley Adams' return to streaming for ZBrush, I have to get my snake hook brush out. I don't know if you know, she was away for a little bit. She was back last night. It was great to see her again. She always has the best streams. Such creative stuff she does. So, if you haven't seen it, check it out because her stuff is always amazing. Do a little bit of this, little Ben Kirby. All right. And now we're going to add just a little. Oh, let me see your floating UI. See, I have 2. My one floating menu is this one. It's got my geometry stuff, extract, edge loops, groups loops, panel loops, stuff for the dynamic subdivision, delete hidden, all that stuff. Then I have my little grouping submenu, my masking, which I very rarely use here, but sometimes I do. When I have to do like mask by poly groups, that's what and the different deformations that I use the most, I pop on this little thing. This is my favorite little menu here. I love my little menu. And some of the stuff is, some of the other stuff is down here, obviously. The other menu is my Control Shift menu. So when I hit Alt B, I have access to my different masking brushes, different clipping brushes, slice brushes, and trim brushes. um, and the mesh stuff. Which, incidentally, someone at some point has got to like all this mesh stuff, the mesh extrude, mesh balloon, mesh extrude pro, mesh black, all that stuff was so cool looking when it first came out, and I've never like seen it used since then. I need to I need to like someone needs to like to do you know a stream or a video where like they show that being used because it has to be useful because it looked useful when I saw it. Um, I yeah I trying to remember when I think I did it. I probably it was probably watching Pavlovich. I think Pavlovich probably did it once, and um, it's kind of like again being a my guy. It's kind of like those the marking menus you can just kind of call up because like if I didn't do those, then my custom UI would have like like this UI down here would have like it would come up to here. Right? It had like a million buttons. And it's to me, it's better just to be able to call them up, as opposed to have them take up all this space on the off chance that you might need them. I just feel that that way I only see them when I need to, and my user interface is my actual canvas is a little bit bigger. Maybe for brushes, yeah. So for me, most of like the brushes I use the most, I just have hotkeys for it, right? So Alt S is my standard, Alt D is damn standard, Alt W is move, Alt E is Z mother, Alt Z is pinch, Alt X is inflate, Alt C is clay build up. So like Alt Q is trim, Alt J is J cut. Like I've added more and more. But yeah, so my left hand is always just going to different keys like that. He's got this weird haircut. I think it's probably a '70s thing, where it's just kind of like hanging, like it's almost like just all one length, almost like a bowl cut. Um, so that's I'm gonna think I'm gonna try this. And again, this is one of those things where whenever I say I'm gonna try something, you should just make plans to see me undo. But I want to have them I want to have it come out like a bunch of these. Oh, no problem, Brad. No problem. Again, you got I gave you my user interface color scheme, which I think is very classy, very business park esque. So if you need the if you need the menus, just let me know. I felt this feels like it's made of it's like brass and oak. I don't know. Okay, anyway, so hair. So it's got that kind of weird almost like that He-Man hair where it's just all coming down the same length. Let's just try this. It might not work, but let's just try it. I'm going to insert a random shape, and I'm going to bring this on top of his head. This to me is kind of the fun part where you can just like try and find the quickest way to do something. Um, it is. It's the again, like I said, this is perfect for it's business colors. It's like business park colors. I'm gonna come here. I'm gonna swap this out for a sphere 3D. 3D Manic, what's up, bud? You are late, but I'm still here, even though it's past 8 o'clock. I'm sorry, guys. I'm gonna skip out soon. I want to just I want to try this. So I'm gonna kind of go to this kind of a little half circle thing here. I don't know if it's gonna work or not. It might though. It might. For our purposes, again, stupid is kind of stupid is exactly what we're going for. So it might work. I'm gonna give him a bowl cut using an actual bowl. Let's go to polyframe here, and let's actually get rid of these. So I'm just going to select them with the old Z Modeler brush. Control Shift click, get rid of that guy, and delete hidden. And let's go to double-sided so I can see what's up. I don't want to see anything on the front. So let's get rid of all them. Let's say maybe these guys here. Yeah, like that. Delete hidden. essentially fitting him for a wig in a way. So now if I bring back everything, kind of have that hair off the side a little bit here, kind of like that. How do I still have the friggin' mask circle on my... Oh, I'm using the slide lasso. I'm fine. I'm fine. It's why. This is why I shouldn't work past 8 o'clock. But this will kind of actually get me started with where the hair is going to be. And I can kind of tweak this shape a little bit, you know, and extrude it, give it some thickness when I want it to. But I think just generally speaking, just being able to kind of like have this shape will just kind of give me a better feel for where I'm headed with this. Oh, it's 6 a.m. where you are. Oh, wow. Okay. Well, I apologize for having my voice be one of the first things you hear, although it is probably just as annoying as an alarm clock. So we'll go with that. Let's just well, he is flying through the air, so his hair is going to be a little bit more away from his head. Now again, this is not the actual hair so much as it is kind of like, you know, an idea as to where the hair is going to be. But I think that we can work with that at least as, you know, as an idea as to where the hair pieces are going to go. I'm going to use curved brushes and stuff like that probably for the hair, but just want to kind of get a feel for what we're looking for here. And again, it looks too much like a page boy thing, and it's not going to be that way. It's going to be a lot more strandy. Kind of want his hair to look kind of greasy. So it's going to be a lot more strandy than this, in the sense this isn't strandy at all. But yeah. So let's put on perspective here. All right. So I think again, as a block out, we started from absolutely nothing today. So I think for 2 hours, it was a useful block out stage. I think that we can kind of like we can get an idea. We still actually have to obviously do the actual sculpting, and it would help if we actually had the gun and the bucket and the thing that stuff that he's shooting and all that kind of stuff. But I think that generally speaking, there's enough here to work with. I could be wrong. I hope so. You know, to kind of get us moving toward figuring out exactly how to make this guy look. I think, yeah. So again, I might end up doing a little bit of tweaking in terms of the overall angle of the head. I still think maybe it's looking down a little bit too much, but maybe not. We'll have to see. But yeah, again, I think we can kind of like, this is a decent stage one in terms of blocking out the overall shape. He looks ridiculous. That's the idea. So, you know, and hopefully at some point, you know, they'll start looking ridiculous, but also, you know, a little bit more put together. And I think he will. I think it's going to come. I think it's going to come together. I just need to, you know, to do some adjustments to the overall proportions. Get the fingers looking like fingers. You know, get some hair in there, but I want this guy to feel very dynamic, and I think that the dynamic element of this is going to come from the clothing, which is not dynamic yet. It's just there. But I want this clothing to kind of really feel a little bit extreme. I might do some little tweaks to the pose. I think his head needs a tweak, needs to bend a little bit, one, you know, to the other direction, to this way. But like I said, this is, you know, now that most of the stuff is here, I think getting a feel for those kinds of steps, those kinds of poses, those kinds of little, you know, those kinds of adjustments are going to be easier. It's going to be easier to see how effective they are, because we can see it in the context of, you know, of the entire character, more or less. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm talking as I sculpt the head, but I think that this is actually, you know, it's a starting point. the bucket's going to be here, the gun's going to be here, the glue's going to be come down here. It's going to kind of swoosh back to kind of be the base. I think it'll work. I think we just need to get that face a little bit more interesting, and then play around with some clothing. So I think I'm gonna call it here, just because again, sometimes you need to take a little step back. I'll come back and look at this probably tomorrow and wonder why I missed all the horrible things that I let slide this entire time. But for now, I think that, again, it's good to kind of get the shapes there and say, okay, I'm going to come back and do some of the tedious stuff later, like fix the fingers and stuff. So I'm going to take off, folks. Thank you so much for hanging out. Again, so much fun to kind of hang out with you guys while I do these things, because again, it really forces me to think about what I'm doing, and to kind of like, if I can explain it while I'm doing it, then it makes sense. And sometimes it's easy to kind of like lose track of why you're doing stuff if you're just kind of like working away by yourself. So as always, guys, thank you so much. Angry Monday, Orlando, 3D Manic, Bradley, Mike, again, everyone that came by, thank you so much for coming in. And I'll see you a little bit. Again, I don't know what's going on this weekend. I don't know if Ian's sculpting this weekend or not. I'll keep an eye on Discord. And if not, I'll be seeing you again soon, because again, I can't stop doing this. So I'll see you guys in a little bit. Maybe be Sunday, maybe be Thursday, definitely Thursday. But we'll be back with Paste Pot Pete another day. So again, thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Good night.